the moment. It's Michael Doppelmayr. They're one of their bronze drivers in the Racing Spirit of Le Mans run car. And then the number 9 that had an off at Virage de l'Ice, which is the Graf Nova of Luis San Juan, one of their bronze drivers as well. So, of course, mate, if you have bronzes in your lineup, then they're not allowed to do 2 sessions back-to-back. So, a lot of bronze drivers out in this Q1 session. And he's about to be rounded up by the number 3 of Nick Adcock in the CD Sports run car. So in terms of the Drivers' Championship, it is Team Virage 1 and 2 in LMP3. It is a close battle between the number 1 crew of Axel Noss, Georgios Kolovas and Sasha Lehmann, and then the 88 crew of Daniel Maciat, Rafael Narak and Jacek Zielonka. They are separated by 14 points going into this penultimate race of the season, with 25 up for grabs for the win. Looking less likely now that TS Corsa's Nathan Kumar will be able to usurp them. Then in MPO2, James Winslow and John Corbett in the number 7 crew lead Luis San Juan, Eric Trulé by 12 points in the MPO2 category. So it's likely those two will go on to Paul Ricard, but if their rivals have issues, then that could swing things in their favour for an early championship crown. Once again, we have a beautiful mix of LMP3 machinery from Ligier, Ginetta and Duqueine alongside the Nova MPO2s. But of course, the big news from last night's annual press conference was that in 2025, that will no longer be the case. The European Endurance Prototype Cup will be exclusively for these Nova MPO2s next year, with LMP3 getting its own championship now, which will be featured 2 55-minute races, which will allow for pro lineups, silver class lineups, and bronze lineups as well. Championships to accommodate all 3 of those classes. Right, let's have a look at some of the lap times then. In free practice yesterday, it was the number 12 CMR Ginetta that set the fastest time of the day with Nico Prost at the wheel, a 1:33.993. We are yet to go underneath that benchmark set by the former Rebellion LMP1 racer, but it is Romain Favre who is fastest at the moment on 1:34.369 for the number 34 into Europole competition crew. And Romain Favre, usually a part of the 2B Autosports lineup in GT Endurance, but for this weekend is joining Dane Aronson and Pedro Perino in the number 34 into Europole competition car. The midget champion from a couple of years ago and the former Alpine Elf Cup racer with the VPS Racing team. So that's the Mathieu Vaxivière, Aurélien Panis and Rafael Serrano run outfit. And no stranger to the Inter-Europole competition teams. He's running in the Ligier European Series in the JSP4 with that team. That's his main program for the year. He was a race winner in Paul Ricard. And so he's running strong at the moment, nearly 3/4 of a second ahead of the number 5 crew of Jonathan Thomas, the race winners from Hockenheim in the CD Sports crew. They definitely would have been championship contenders were it not for a few mechanical and bad luck woes during the early stages of the season. It's now Matthias Besch who is lighting up the timing screen at the moment in the number 20 DB Autosports car. But we have a red flag out, and so the session has been stopped, and just waiting to see who might be the cause for this red flag. Cars are coming back into pit lane under controlled speed of 80 kilometers per hour. We haven't actually had lap times yet from 2 of the 27 cars that are due to take part in this race. Philippe Simodomo in the MV2S racing car, and that is why, I just said it, Philippe Simodomo has smashed the rear end of that MV2S racing number 28 Nova into the barriers. Didn't quite see where that was out on the racetrack, but that is obviously terrible news for the MV2S crew, who will now have to line up at the back of the grid as they'll take no further part in this qualifying session. Also yet to see times from Alexandre Yvonne in the number 70 ANS Motorsports car. That is a guest entry for this weekend. It's a rental. You'll see it's running the factory Nova livery on it, but the Yvonne family. It's a dad, lad and lad combination in that car. One of the lads in at the moment. See the Graf crew just waiting to receive their cars. ANS Motorsport back into pit lane. Oh, no, not going back into the garage, joining the queue at the end of pit lane, just behind the Writer Engineering number 57 machine. And there is the recovery truck on the way to the scene of the accident to recover Philippe Simodomo. The MV2S Racing team has had some ups and downs this year. The 27 crew certainly been running strongly throughout the year. It's Philippe Simodomo, the bronze driver. The car he shares with Tim Meriot, who is running in Le Mans Cup with MV2S. And it is car stops at turn number 12, I'm just seeing. So car number 12 being the Imola chicane. So that is quite a high speed off, but there is Philippe out of the car, at the very least, which is always good to see. Probably just asking for, how do I get back to the paddock now from here? So we are under red flag conditions then, as we wait for that car to be recovered. Some choosing to wait in the box, some choosing to wait at the end of pit lane. Let me give you a rundown of how the order looks so far. It is Matthias Besch in the number 20 DB Autosport Nova, the gold-rated driver that leads by 22 thousandths of a second to Romain Favre in the Inter-Europol competition Ligier, so Nova and LMP3 1 and 2. Jonathan Thomas in the number 5 CD Sports car is third fastest by 3/4 of a second. Then comes Raphael Narak in the championship contending 88 Team Virage car, just ahead of his teammate Axel Noss in the number 1 car. Those are the two cars going for the LMP3 championship. Gwen Delamere in the number 12 CMR car. It's been fastest in practice. Car he shares with Nico Prost is 6th fastest. Then comes Kevin Rabin in the number 8 Graf Nova. That is another crew that is trying to contend for the championship. It's been all about Graf in MPO2 in terms of the championship so far this year. Kevin Rabin joining only his 3rd race and his 2nd with the Graf Racing team. Maxence Maurice in the number 4 CD Sport car. The son of, the father of Louis Maurice is the bronze driver. Christophe Cresp in the number 27 MV2S Racing car, and then Antoine Lacoste in the 154 Kogamo Nova. That is the top 10. We have a few changes compared to Mugello. Jan Zimmer joining the number 3 CD Sport crew of Nick Adcock and Michael Jensen. He started out the year in the Graf Nova for, I think it was the number 8 crew. Of course, we have the return of CMR and the Ginetta G61. In the number 17 Lamo Racing crew, Danny Bunchu has a new teammate, which is Sasha Klavadetscher, the silver class 19-year-old from Switzerland in his 3rd year of car racing and our reigning CN champion from last year's series. Matthias Besch has moved over from the 21 DB Autosport crew to the number 20. So Daniel and Quentin Bassora now joined by Philippe Yachard, who was in the car last year. So it's an all-bronze lineup for the 21. And then Matthias Besch, former Le Mans Series champion and former teammate to Nico Prost as well, now sharing the car with Adrien Bastide, the rally driver who has also competed in midgets with the Racing Spirit of Le Mans team, the silver-graded driver. In the number 24 TS Course car, it's all James Winslow coaching students. So Nathan Kumar, the usual suspect in that car, but George King back in the TS Course car as he was in Hockenheim, having done a little bit of seat hopping. And then Alan Geshev, who was in the Novas earlier this year. He's making his LMP3 debut this weekend as the former Golf Radical racer, the bronze driver in the number 24 car. We have the number 25 Extreme Limit Nova joining us for this weekend, Marc Bornet and Benjamin Radar. Marc Bornet, it's an all-silver lineup there, but Marc Bornet, the former F4 racer and then Trophy Tourism Endurance racer in the Ligier JS2R. As we see the barriers being repaired down at the Imola chicane. What else is new? Romain Favre, we already mentioned in the Inter-Europol competition, Ligier. The new entry from ANS Motorsport is the number 70. So that's Adrien, Alexandre and Jean-Francois Yvon. That is an all-bronze lineup, and it's Jean-Francois and his two sons, Adrien and Alexandre, racing this weekend. What else is different on the entry list? The Kogamo Racing 154 car has a new driver, and it's Kai Aski, who we saw out in the Inter-Europol competition Ligier last time out in Mugello, and he is running in the European Le Mans Series with the Polish outfit, the 18-year-old Brit. And so he joins Antoine Lacoste and Jesse Bouhet. Of course, Jesse is contending for the MPO2 championship himself, comes here 6th in the standings. It's a bit of an outside shot now for the 52-year-old Frenchman, sadly, but that should put them in a good position for a strong result here with Kai at the wheel. So the track falling silent, which I know will be a relief to the podium announcers for the Ultimate Formula Cup race that we just had, because it is safe to say that you can't hear anything out there on track when these cars are pounding around with their thunderous V8s that are in both the LMP3 car and the Nova. It's a Ford V8 in the Nova alongside the Nissan V8 in the LMP3 cars. See a few drivers that have opted to get out of the car by the looks of it in order to just get a bit comfortable. What is quite a lengthy red flag here. The clock stopped with 6 minutes and 56 left in the session. So almost exactly 8 minutes in. And a reminder, it is the 3 qualifying sessions that sets the grid for the 4-hour race later on today. Qualifying and the race taking part in a very short space of time, as there is the MV2S racing car on the back of the low loader. An awful lot of damage on the back of that MV2S racing car that I imagine will not be taking the start now, so we could be down to 26 cars, sadly, as more teams are pushing their cars out of the fast lane and into the boxes. But yes, the 3 qualifying sessions, 3 15-minute sessions. If you have 2 drivers in your lineup, drivers cannot do consecutive sessions, and if one of them is a bronze driver, they must do 2 of the sessions. So if you are in the CMR Ginetta, for example, with Nico Prost and Gwen Delamere, then Gwen Delamere has to do this session and Q3, with Nico Prost doing the middle session. And then we take the average time from those 3 sessions, and we then set the grid. Right, I think the reason that cars are being pushed into the quote-unquote slow lane is because the remaining time in Q1 has been abandoned. So it was Matthias Besch who topped Q1 in that number 20 car. Didn't actually see the time, though. I didn't write it down before it disappeared off the timing screen, annoyingly. So we'll have to do a little bit of guesswork for the remaining sessions, but obviously it's taken quite a bit of time to get that barrier repaired, and we don't have a huge amount of leeway in terms of the schedule. It will be a night race this evening for the European Endurance Prototype Cup, with lights out at 20 to 6 tonight. The race ending at 20 to 10, and we have to have engine shut off at 10 p.m. And so we have about 20 minutes of leeway. And so we wait now for the green flag for Q2, and it will be the second drivers now getting aboard the car. Driver IDs will be set once they leave the pit lane, hopefully. And a reminder that we are looking to seal some championships this weekend with Graf Racing and Team Virage potentially getting the championship sorted. Right, the number one Team Virage car is coming at such a tight angle because they're the last car in pit lane, and they have forced their way to the front of the queue at the end of pit lane to get Q2 underway. Who have they beaten? Is that they're blocking one of the other cars, but I can see the DS Course Duqueine in there as well. And we were talking earlier about the new LMP3 championship that the Ultimate Cup has launched, and just to clarify on that, actually, it is for machines pre-2024, so we won't be having the third generation machinery in the in that championship next year. The ANS team watching closely on was having a lovely chat with their team manager yesterday during the free practice sessions, and green light is on, and it's Sasha Lehmann in the number one car who has led the field out of pit lane. Alan Geshev in the TS Course Duqueine there as well. There's a timing screen is being updated with lots of the driver IDs are set on the steering wheel. And so hopefully we'll be able to get the full 15 minutes in for this one. Thankfully as well, the weather is holding as well. It's very overcast here in the region of Nevers today, but thankfully it doesn't look like we're anywhere close to the conditions that we saw in Mugello, where the pit lane was flooded and we had to have red flag conditions for 2 hours. And that was a overall victory for James Winslow and John Corbett, and they're second in the MPO2 category of the year, and that is very much what has given them a hold in the championship. And I will be a little bit of a stickler actually and mention that James Winslow is half a point ahead of his teammate John Corbett because John was not taking part in the opening meeting of the season in Paul Ricard, where James Winslow scored half a point. So yes, it's going to the crew, but technically this is James Winslow fighting for the championship. There is our LMP3 championship leader, the number one car. Now again, Sasha Lehmann on a different points tally to Georgios Kolovas and Axel Noss, because he didn't take part in Paul Ricard, so he's 10 points behind his two teammates, but all the wins and podiums that they've scored so far this year, it's been first, and third for the number one crew in the last 3 races, have all been scored with Sasha at the wheel of the car, and he's being chased on track by the 88 crew, who have been together all season long. 1 win and 2 additional podiums to their name. Sasha Lehmann flying through the Grand Curve and Estoril on this first flying lap in Q2, unleashing the taps on the Nissan V8, heading down towards the Adelaide hairpin. Let's see what the first sector time is like for Sasha Lehmann, a 28.596. That is quite a rapid time. You see the Greek flag on the back of that car for Georgios Kolovas, the bronze driver in that car. And a little bit of a swapper through the Nürburgring chicane for Sasha Lehmann there. He is ringing the leg of that JSP 320 through the 180-degree corner. This circuit no stranger to the Ultimate Cup and many of the teams that are taking part. Of course, not a circuit you would often see LMP3 machinery, and that's not on the ACO calendar. But it has provided plenty of thrills, plenty of spills for the Ultimate Cup in years gone by. Right, that was Chateau d'Eau. That's the Frenchman, the 22-year-old, had just made his way through. And now on the blast up towards the last 3 corners, Virage de l'Ice, tight right-hander, and then immediately into the big curbs over the, oh, that was the 88 car, sorry, of Daniel Macier that we were just following there. But Sacha Lehmann across the line, it's a 1:35.103. He's a quarter of a second ahead of his teammate in the 88 car. That was the leading Virage car in Q1, don't forget. Alain Guichev in the 24 car goes 3rd fastest, but this is the number 88 of Loris Kuijbers, or was it the number 8 of Loris Kuijbers, sorry, the Graf Racing car. Kuijbers 5th in the championship, having had 2 podium finishes, but he has been swapping between the 2 cars because he was in the number 9 car in Mugello, standing in for David Drew, who was having to race for Cool Racing that weekend. The Swiss driver making his way out of the Adelaide hairpin. Wheel guns being prepared in which garage is that? I think that might be the Graf Racing garage as well. They are limited on tyres. Oh, there's quite a bit of smoke at the 180-degree corner. I wonder if that's a lock-up or a spin for somebody down there. Pedro Pirino, meanwhile, has gone 2nd fastest in the number 34 Inter-Europol competition at Ligier. So the Mozambican Portuguese 19-year-old, who is competing with the Polish team in the European Le Mans Series this year, having joined from the DKR squad, ex-teammate to James Winslow as well, in fact, last year. But he is now 2nd fastest, just 0.2 of a second away from Sacha Lehmann. It is LMP3 cars 1, 2 and 3 with Nicolas Morlini, fastest reigning champion of the MPO2 runners, in 4th overall, just ahead of James Winslow. So 2 silver-graded drivers line astern. This is where we are starting to see the silver class drivers out in, and it's Pierre-Alexandre Provost who now goes fastest for the number 27 MV2S Racing crew. So teammate to the car that brought out the red flag in Q1, and so that would be some reprieve for the French squad as Morlini now goes 2nd fastest. So suddenly it's MPO2 cars 1 and 2 ahead of 4 of the LMP3 machines. So Provost on a 1:34.497, just 33 thousandths of a second ahead of Racing Spirit of Le Mans Morlini. And here is Provost in the number 27 car chasing the number 8 of Loris Kuijbers on the road. Provost, the former French F4 racer in his first year of prototype racing, having competed in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine last year. So through the Nürburgring chicane, and I can't help but feel, or the Imola chicane I should say, sorry. I can't help but feel that Provost is going to get held up here by Kuijbers on this lap, as Kai Aski now in the Kokomo Nova goes fastest, 1:34.415, a 1/10 of a second ahead of reigning champion Morlini. And right as I say that, Prost now goes to the top of the times in the CMR Ginetta, so it's changing thick and fast. Still not challenging the fastest time of the weekend, which was set by Prost, the 1:33.993. We are getting a little bit closer to it, about 0.2 of a second away from it as it stands. But of course, Prost being the platinum rated driver, as the former Rebellion LMP1 racer and Formula E racer with the Renault E-Dams team. The old Dams team boss Gregory Drio is here this weekend, of course, as the contingent for the CMR Ginetta in GT Sprint. And so this is the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car of Ilya Earhart, the number 64 car that's making its way through the Grand Curve. And it has been a sort of on-off campaign for this number 64 car, but Ilya is the silver driver, the 36-year-old German, former Seat Super Copper Germany champion, but has had plenty of GT experience, mostly in Audi machinery. But here is the man who was fastest. Kayaski has taken that honour back in the Kokomo car, but the TS Course car is off the road. That is Alem Gashev, who seems to have beached the Duqueine into the gravel trap. He's tried to find reverse. He's spinning up those rear Michelins and is stuck in the gravel trap. And we wait to see, where is that on track? So we have 6.5 minutes left on the clock, and it is another red flag situation then for Alem Gashev, who has beached the TS Course Duqueine into the gravel trap. Gashev on his maiden weekend in LMP3 machinery that was in the Graf Nova earlier this year, and one of 3 drivers in that car who's been coached by James Winslow. I was having a chat with James earlier, and he was telling me that preparing Alem for the Gulf Radical Cup once again this year, as he was competing in last year. Now, where is that? That's where the long lap penalty is for the World Superbike Championship, and that is the 180-degree corner of turn 9. I'm not just describing it as an angle, that's actually what it's called. So while we're under red flag conditions, Claire Cottingham has made her way down to the Graf Racing Garage.
I have indeed, alongside me, John Corbett. Another red flag out there, really disrupted already. What is it about Magny-Cours that's causing a few issues?
I don't know, I haven't been here for so long. But yeah, it seems to be the exit of the second chicane, which catches a lot of people out.
James Winslow obviously out there at the moment, your teammate. We are currently 8th at the moment, 8th fastest. Do you think he could have gone faster before the red flag?
Yeah, probably, but I think everybody else might have gone quicker as well.
It's quite surprising, isn't it? We're seeing a lot of fast times out there.
It is. When we turned up on Wednesday afternoon, it was torrential rain, so we didn't get any dry running. So we only really did our dry setup today. So all a bit too late. I think some other people might have been better prepared. So
that's fair enough at this point. That's very honest of you to say it. But there might be some rain coming this weekend. We are unsure.
Well, you never know here, right? So if it does rain, it'll even things out, I guess. But we'll wait and see.
It's been a successful championship so far for you guys. Obviously, fond memories in Mugello as well. How confident are we coming into Magny-Cours?
Well, look at the timing board. That's
not everything at the moment. That's not everything. There's still plenty of time to go.
Look, you never know, okay? We've been very fortunate thus far, and I don't want to jinx our luck thus far, so we'll see how we go, touch wood.
Is it a track? Obviously, we're going to have 4 hours of racing on, into night time. How are you feeling about racing into the evening? Yeah,
the night time's fine. The lights are really good here. It's just the managing the red flags is going to be an issue. It seems like a lot of people are going off, so we'll see.
We will see. There's still plenty more to go. How important is pole position at a track like this?
It isn't. You can start in pit lane.
See? There you go. Some confidence for you. John, thank you so much. Good luck for the rest of the session.
Thanks. See you later.
John Corbett, of course, part of the number 7 Graf Racing crew that is going for the championship this year, alongside James Winslow. Right, just before the red flag came out, Sasha Lehmann banged in a 1:33.919. That is the fastest time we've had so far this year, and he's 54 thousandths of a second ahead of Kai Aski on a 33.973. So the 2 young silver guns in the Ligier and the Nova, respectively, ahead of Nico Prost. So it is currently Ligier, Nova, Ginetta, Nova, Nova, Ligier. Great mix again. 6 minutes 42 left on the clock, and I do wonder if we are going to abandon the rest of this session as well, as we did with Q1. Kai Aski was on a really good lap on when the red flag came out as well. He'd done a personal best in the first sector and purple in the middle sector. So it could have been on time that would usurp Sasha Lehmann from the front of the overall field. Of course, remember, it's the average of the 3 qualifying sessions that will set the grid for this afternoon's 4-hour race. Alem Gashev, by the way, when he brought out that red flag, 15th fastest in the TS Course Duqueine, but I think 3rd fastest of the bronze drivers out there in the field. Yes, Jean-Marc Alaphilippe in 12th overall, then Eric Troulet in 14th, and then Gishev in 15th. And bear in mind that this was a session where a number of the pro drivers end up taking over the car. And so behind him it is mostly bronze drivers out there. Of course, down to 26 cars. Well, now we'll be down to 25 by the looks of it. Unless that car can rejoin in Q3. Depends on how smooth the extraction is. In fact, I can see on one of our other cameras, but Alain Gishev has gone out of the car during that extraction, and now you're going to test my knowledge on the regulations to see whether that constitutes him being retired from the session. I think though, he's fine to do that. Although it has brought out a red flag, it should still be with their best. Should be able to keep its best laps and therefore remain in the session. And as it doesn't appear to be damaged, I don't think it even made contact with any barriers, should be able to take part in Q3 with George King at the wheel. Yes, there it is. The Nissan V8 rumbles back into life. Awful lot of gravel coming out of the back of the Duqueine. So he takes the, that's the long lap penalty for the World Superbikes. And look at the gravel. There's been enough to open up a beach. Alan doing everything he can to shake that gravel out of the car as quick as possible. But there it all comes flooding out, doesn't it? That's going to be lovely for the drivers to run over when we get back going again. But yeah, no damage on that car at all. I think that can not only rejoin for Q3, but also for this session as well. So may not be done just yet for Alain Gishev and the TS Course crew. Number 24. So session will restart in short call. So I think basically as soon as Alain Gishev is back in the pit lane, we will go green again. There was the damaged MV2S racing car, the number 28 that Philippe Simodomo shunted in Q1. And you can see an aggressive amount of camber and toe on the rear left Michelin. Less than ideal. Yeah, that's not to regulation. A lot of damage to the back of that car, and yeah, would not be surprised to see that car not make it out. Cars are queuing at the end of pit lane to get the remaining 6 minutes and 43 seconds of this Q2 session underway, and the green flag has been shown now. So I think it was the 71 that was first one out there. Yes, it was. That is Karen Gaillard, the Iron Dame, competing in Le Mans Cup with the Iron Dame's Lamborghini, alongside Celia Martin. And that 71 crew, I wanted to check. Were they on the podium last time out? No, they just missed out on the podium, actually, I think, in Mugello. I seem to remember they were performing very well. The crew at Marc Fagianato and Aiko Segret, alongside the Iron Dame, Karen Gaillard, who's currently at the wheel of that car. All right, so a reminder, it's Sasha Lehmann, Kai Aski, and Nico Prost, the top three. So Team Virage, Kogamo's Nova, and then the number 12 CMR Ginetta. There's the top three as it stands, as we have cars back out onto the racetrack and building up to some flying laps. Will probably only be about 4.5 minutes left on the clock by the time the cars get back round to start a flying lap. So I'm going to have to get on it quite quickly. So it did take a couple of laps to get the Michelins in the right window. The car that was fastest in Q1 as well, the number 20 car Matthias Besch, now with Adrien Bastide at the wheel. That is currently in 18th position, and so That just gives you a bit of an indication of what can change between the qualifying sessions. Of course, they'll be hoping to put that slightly higher up on the grid for a better overall position, but cars now on their flying laps once again with this session back underway. And it's the Lamo car that is filing through the picture there into the Grand Curve. The two Team Virage cars once again line astern out there on track. This is the man who's fastest in the session as it stands, Sacha Lehmann. The 22-year-old Frenchman, the Lafiliere Endurance Proto member, having made the switch from single-seaters to prototypes back in 2020 in the Ligier European Series and the JSP4, competing in the Le Mans Cup since then. The 88 car, who's driving the 88 in this session? Ah, yes, Daniel Macier. The 23-year-old Spaniard, who is in his first year of LMP3 racing. In fact, all the drivers in the 88 are in their first year of LMP3 racing. Rafael Narak was making the switch over from the Italian F4 and Euro F4 series over to LMP3 this year, and Jacek Zielonka has not only made the switch over from Radical Racing, but also expanding that as well to do Road to Le Mans and the Spa and Mugello rounds of the European Le Mans series. So Sacha Lehmann continuing on his way. It is not a personal best in the first sector, but it's not far away either from some of the best times we've had in this session so far, 28.4. So flying through the Imola chicane and then swing it back left again for Chateau d'Eau. And open up the taps on the Nissan V8 on the run towards Virage de l'Ice and the chicane. So they're really avoiding the curbing on the right-hand side. Takes a little bit more of it at the chicane. But again, that was not a particularly fast lap yet in the 136s for Sacha Lehmann. I'm sure he'll be building up to some decent speed now. Got enough time left on the clock for 2 more laps out there. And just a reminder that this is the soundtrack of LMP3 that, while that might be leaving for wider LMP3 competition, we're still going to be having it. But off goes the number 21 DB Autosport car, and that looked like it might have picked up a right rear puncture. It was looking very low on that right-hand side and quite high on the front left. And that is another off at, I think that was the turn 9, 180-degree corner again, where Alain Gachef went off. That has been the action spot so far this qualifying session. Now, who's driving the 21? It's Philippe Yachard, who is the guest driver in that car alongside Daniel and Quentin Bassora. And we're back under red flag conditions once again. We barely just got them back going again. It's our 3rd red flag of qualifying. And we definitely won't be getting the remaining time back in for this one because we've got a minute left on the clock. And so the red flags waved by the marshals, the LED panels lit up, and now everyone heading back to pit lane to put their 3rd drivers or their first drivers, their two-driver lineup, back in the car. And yes, that is the number 21 that went spearing off the road, spun round multiple times. I'd love to see a replay of what happened, actually, because we just caught the sort of end of it, really. It did look like it had a puncture on the right rear. So maybe not entirely the fault of Philippe Yachard. That's it, we said who's previously part of the DB Autosport lineup this year. Team run by Lionel Robert, the Le Mans 24-hour participant, but Philippe is out of the car. So, of course, no one was able to improve during that time, and that means that it is Sasha Lehmann fastest in Q2 with the fastest time of the weekend, a 1:33.919. So now we just wait to have the number 21 car recovered from the gravel trap. And now cars 21 and 27 are under investigation for an incident in that session. And so perhaps, and it did look like he was close to Pierre-Alexandre Provost's MV2S Racing Nova, maybe there was an incident between the two that pitched Philippe Yachard into that spin. So Jonathan Thomas prepares to get back on board the number 5 CD Sports car, pole position and race win in Hockenheim for the number 5 crew. And again, proved to be incredibly fast during the Mugello round, but sadly they were limited to a 10th place finish in the end. It's an all-silver lineup for them, so they are one of the more heavily handicapped pairings on the grid. And of course, we do have handicaps for drivers running all pro lineups or fewer bronze drivers. There is a long and complicated table of how that works out. Clean of the screen and maybe a thumbs up. There's Philippe Yachard trundling through the gravel trap. Still waiting for that car to be extracted from the gravel trap so that we can get Q3 underway. So right now I think the best placed car would be the number 1 Team Virage car, championship leaders in LMP3. And if something does happen to the 88 crew, we will have to start doing some math on what they need to do to win the championship, because as we mentioned earlier, they are 14 points clear of the sister car. But let's go back down to CD Sport and Claire Cottingham.
Yeah, alongside me, Thomas Inborg, you've just jumped out of the car. Another red flag. Quite frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, but hopefully we did a bunker lap in both qualifying sessions, so in the end for us it's not bad. We managed to do a quick lap quite fast in the session, so it was important. We knew there would be some red flags, so it was important to be fast early in the session.
And you did that. You're 4th fastest at the moment, and you had barely any time to set that lap. Why are there so many red flags?
I know the track is tricky, and of course people are pushing hard, and so it's easy to make a little mistakes, and here the gravels are quite close, so it's easy to make some red flags.
It's a championship you and your teammate have been doing incredibly well in. You started in pole position. You started on the pole position last time out in Mugello. How are you feeling this time?
Good. We will see how the weather first comes, because it's really uncertain. And then we will do our race. We know what we have to do, and we will see at the end what the result is.
So not just that, we might have some rain, yes, to contend with, but also darkness.
Yeah, hopefully the tests yesterday were really important to see how good or bad you could see the track, and the part where you could see well the track and not so well, so it was important to take some reference to know what to brake, what to turn, etc. on those conditions.
How much can you learn in those sessions though? You only had one in the dark. How much can you really learn?
It's a lot about how fast you can adapt also, and every time the track is a bit different, every time the car is a bit different, but it's our job to be really fast no matter what the conditions are.
Feeling confident?
Yeah.
Always. I don't know why I always ask drivers that, but they always give me exactly the same. Good luck for the rest of the session.
Thank you.
Yes, a good point there from Jonathan Thomas, who... Oh, sorry, Thomas Inborg, I should say. As this is a night race, we are starting with the low sun, and then we will be driving into the night, and there are certain parts of the racetrack that are illuminated by some floodlights, but not an awful lot of it. It's far from, say, the Marina Bay Street Circuit, for example, but also not quite as dark as Le Mans, for example. And speaking to the drivers, the biggest challenge with that, as we have the green flag now for the start of Q3 and the drivers make their way out onto the racetrack, is that it's tough to tell the distance and really get a reference for where the car behind you is. You just see headlights, you can't really see who it is or how far behind they are. So they'll really be relying on their engineers for at least who is behind them and whether they're battling them for position or not. But when it comes to lapping traffic, that could make things quite difficult as well. And so it adds a whole nother element to the 4-hour race this afternoon. So, Jonathan Thomas back aboard the number 5 CD Sport car, the South African, who was driving with Michael Jensen and Nick Adcock last year. Right, there's the number 20 car with Matthias Besch now back on board. Remember, that's the car that was fastest in Q1, and then the number 1 car fastest in Q2. Gwen Delamere back aboard the CMR Ginetta. This has very much been the testing car for Ginetta's next generation machine. Just trying to work out what needs to be improved for that new car when they introduce the Orica-prepared Toyota-based twin-turbo V6 for next year. So who's aboard the number 34 Inter-Europol competition car here? Trying to find it on the list. It's Dane Aronson, the silver-graded Dutch driver who did his first race outside of national competition in Mugello with us a few weeks ago. Quite the baptism of fire with the conditions as they were, but thankfully dry and simpler for the Dutchman. So flying through Estoril, and he's got the number 70 A&S Motorsport car just in front of him in the middle of Estoril. And so that would definitely have compromised Aronson there just a bit. And it's Adrian Yvonne, one of the other sons in that car, that was just making his way around. But we have an off for the number 1 Team Virage car. It is Georgios Kolovos. So the car that was fastest in Q2 and the championship leading car from Team Virage in LMP3 is off the road and in the gravel trap. And again, that seems to be at the 180-degree corner of turn 9. And there's no sign of life in that car as it stands. Remember, if they don't set a time in Q2 or in one of the qualifying sessions, you are automatically demoted to the back of the grid. So no sign of a red flag just yet, but there are yellow flags waving out there, and that is indeed turn number 9. So that's really been the action spot for this qualifying session. The sister 88 car continues on as still Georgios Kolovos is stranded in the middle of turn number 9. I wonder what processes are going on inside that car to try and get it going again. The 88 should be Jacek Zielonka at the wheel of the car now. Yes, it is. Fastest of the bronze drivers at the end of his first run, but it's the Aiko Segret, the young Frenchman, or the young Swiss driver, I should say, who's pushed his way through into the Adelaide hairpin. Oh, no, Frenchman. I was right the first time, excuse me. A lot of prototype experience in a couple of races, but now the Virage car goes off himself at turn number 9. And so that's both cars that have gone for an off-track excursion at that 180-degree corner, only this time Jacek Zielonka didn't get it into the gravel trap. He kept it onto the tarmac runoff area, would have put some additional damage onto those Michelins. but at least has kept it going, and the yellow flags have been rescinded at that corner, by the way. So his teammate Georgios Kolovos has been able to get going again, but yeah, those Ferrari cars not liking that corner, and the 57 Reiter engineering car is not liking Chateau d'Eur either. Who's in the 57? As he lights up those rear cars, Vincent Capellier, who is second fastest, or third fastest now, as Aiko Segret goes to the top of the times. So their silver graded driver in the number 57 car, joining the two bronzes. The 2019 LMP3 champion of our Ultimate Cup Series. So David Drew here in the number 9 car, the man that is fastest in this session so far, has just pipped Aiko Segret by 1/10 of a second in the number 9 Graf Racing car. That is the car third in the MPO2 standings behind the number 7 crew. This is the car that was victorious in the first race of the season back in Paul Ricard, that was crawling around the last lap to try and save some fuel because it was a lap short on fuel. And David Drew back in the number 9 car, having vacated his seat to compete with Cool Racing in Mugello last time out, as he and the Swiss team were preparing for their Le Mans Cup and European Le Mans Series outing. Of course, David Drew also going for the title. In Le Mans Cup. So just backing out on this lap as Matthias Besch back to the top of the times in the number 20 car, as he was in Q1, and it is a 1:33.231. Wow, that is way faster than we've had anything all day long. He was a second clear of David Drew, but it's Aiko Segret who's bridged that gap somewhat by half a second. But wow, yeah, so fastest time before this weekend was a this session was a 1:33.993. Now it's a 1:33.231. Lap record around here was set by Alessandro Giretti in a Ligier during the 2020 meeting here. It's a 1:32.476. We're very much dependent on conditions being able to lower that lap record later on tonight. But Matthias Besch absolutely flying out there in the number 20 car, as you would expect. A real safe pair of hands. The former Rebellion racer, a race winner in the World Endurance Championship at Silverstone, and an overall podium finisher at the 2018 24 Hours of Le Mans. His third outing, I believe it is, with the DB Autosport team, normally with Daniel and Quentin Bassora. Well, he's backed right out at the end of the lap here and was checking that right-hand side mirror to see what was coming his way. Back with the number 34, Dane Aronson, who's got a little bit of traffic just in front of him. That is the Racing Spirit of Le Mans Nova of Jacques Wolf. That's just in front of him, their bronze driver in that Racing Spirit of Le Mans run car. And so Dane Aronson trying to find some track space. Who's this leaving pit lane? Team Virage, number 88, back out on track. So Jacek Zielonka recovering from that little off he had at turn 9. Heading back out onto the racetrack as Dane Aronson tries to create some space for himself in front of Jacques Wolf. Just under 6.5 minutes left on the clock now in this qualifying session. And the Inter-Europol competition car opening up a lap, closely followed by the Racing Spirit of Le Mans LMP3 car, the number 64, which is Pierre Caffer, their gold-rated driver, now at the wheel of that car just behind them. But Dane Aronson flying through Estoril. Only his second outing in the European Endurance Prototype Cup. But here is George King. He is currently 4th fastest for the TS Course King team, their silver-graded driver, the one pro amongst 2 bronze drivers in that Duqueine. This is his second outing with the TS Course team for our reigning champion, don't forget. Hasn't been able to find himself a full-time seat, unfortunately, but has been doing a little bit of seat hopping. Was with the Graf team in their Nova in Mugello last time out, and was with TS Course in Hockenheim. But now they are being joined by Alan Gishev. You see George King, who started out sim racing, and then during the COVID pandemic, decided to go racing for reals. This is just pulling over to let some of the traffic through, but George King made his real-life racing debut in the Mazda MX-5 scene back in the UK. And since then, as we mentioned, has gone on to win the European Endurance Prototype Cup Championship last year, raced at the Dubai 24 Hours, become a very accomplished racer in a very short space of time. Man from Southend-on-Sea, 24 years old. Of course, the Golf Radical Cup champion as well, failed to mention that. Off the top of my head. Less than 5 minutes to go. Still Matthias Besch's time of a 1:33.231 has been unmatched. Aiko Segret, second fastest, but it's David Drew, the gold-rated driver in the number 9 Graf Nova, that has gotten into third position, with Vincent Capilliere in fourth, and fastest of the LMP3 cars in the Writer Engineering number 57 car, then Dane Aronson. Only 29 thousandths between the top two in LMP3 as it stands, but the top three all Novas at the moment. Jonathan Thomas just gone fourth fastest now, and so make that Novas 1, 2, 3, and 4, with DB Autosport, ANS, Graf Racing, and CD Sport all line astern in the timing order. And then the top three in LMP3 line astern now as well, with Vincent Capilliere. Mathis Poulet has just undone that in the ANS car. But this is Aiko Segret, the young Frenchman, really burst onto the scene here. He was having a little bit of a swapper through Estoril. We saw him have a really great battle in Hockenheim with another of the young guns, but the Frenchman who raced in the JSP4 in the 2024 Prototype Winter Series before joining the Ligier European Series field. A race winner at Spa, currently sits third in the championship. There does Segret, joining over from the CN class last year, winning on his MPO2 debut at this track, in fact, in the Ultimate Cup Series. The Lamo Racing team watches on the remaining few minutes of this qualifying session. Still some personal best times coming in, but nobody's quite lighting it up for purple sector times just yet. Jonathan Thomas had put in a personal best last time around, but still has half a second gap to David Drew, the next car in front of him. And so where does Aiko Segret go? He didn't improve on that previous lap, was about 3/4 of a second away from his best. Mathis Poulet there in the ANS Motorsport car, going just a tad slowly on the front straight, trying to create a little bit of a gap, but he has put himself fifth fastest, the silver graded driver in 72. Another former champion with Team Virage. Here's the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, Pierre Caffer, just coming across the timing line, and had gone fastest in the first sector, and he goes up to fifth fastest and best of the LMP3 cars for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. The 47-year-old gold-rated driver, an LMP2 race winner. German driver from Bad Neuenahr-Ahrweiler, but currently living in Switzerland, where the Racing Spirit of Le Mans team is based. It's not Le Mans as in the 24 hours, it's L-E-M-A-N, all one word. Le Mans, the region of Switzerland. It's a fantastic lake there as well. That's where the team is based. So Pierre Caffer there, continuing his way, currently fastest of the LMP3 runners, as we mentioned, and continuing to lower the benchmark in the first sector. He's just gone fastest through there. but still needing to find 1.2 seconds or so over the leading Nova. And here's Matthias Besch, who's just come into pit lane. And no more laps for the Swiss racer. Graf Cars, Linus then David Drew, currently second fastest in this session. He will just about get over the timing line just in time, I think. The checkered flag has now been shown at David Drew there. Did lower the benchmark. It's 0.3 of a second now to Matthias Besch. There is the checkered flag. George King, one of the first drivers to meet it, fourth fastest as he went best of the LMP3 cars for TS Corsa on a 1:34.267. We saw Pierre Caffa was going faster in the first sector. He hasn't been able to improve his time, though, on the remaining 2 sectors, and so that should put George King best of the LMP3 runners in this session. As Vincent Capillier and Dane Aronson have already met the checkered flag. They're the ones with their pro drivers in, I should say. Best of the bronzes in that session was Gwen Delamere, the Alpine test driver of their road cars in the CMR Ginetta, in 13th position overall. So it is Matthias Besch who is fastest once again for the number 20 DB Autosport crew. That surely is going to put them in a strong position for the starting grid later on today. David Drew second for Graf Racing, and then Eiko Segret in the ANS Motorsport kart number 71. Third fastest, 0.4 of a second in the end between the top 3. And then this man, George King, fastest of the LMP3 runners for TS Course. Second in LMP3 was Pierre Caffa, the gold-rated German driver in the number 64 Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Ligier, and then Vincent Capillier in the 57 Writer Engineering car in 8th position overall. So that has set the grid for this afternoon's, or this evening's race, I should say, really, with lights out at 20 to 6. But here's another look at the qualifying order from Q3. Matthias Besch fastest ahead of David Drew and Eiko Segret. Nathan Kumar, or George King, I should say, fastest of the LMP3 runners, ahead of Jonathan Thomas and Pierre Caffa. Number 72 car being driven by Mathis Poulet there, with Vincent Capillier, 8th fastest for Writer Engineering. Closing out the top 10, Dane Aronson and Jan Zimmer for Inter Europol and CD Sport, respectively. Remember, Jan Zimmer moving over from the Graf car over to CD Sports, the former Le Mans Series and Euro NASCAR driver. So now I just want to check, where did the number 1 car, Georgios Kolovas, end up in the end? Was second fastest of the bronze drivers. We saw that car stopped in the gravel for quite some time, and it did beat the 88 car of Jacek Zielonka, and so I do have a feeling that the number 1 car is going to be in quite a good position for what could be a decisive race in the championship later on today. And so we have the end of qualifying. Let's head down to Claire Cottingham, who is catching up with Karen Gaillard in the ANS Motorsport Garage.
I am indeed. Obviously third fastest in that session. We don't quite know with all the timings where you'll be starting, but that's a pretty good place to put yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. My teammate Tico did a really good job with his lap times, and we will see what the result will be with the 3 qualifying session. Yeah.
How are we feeling about this afternoon's race? Obviously, we've got a twilight race into night time. We only had like a 1 warm-up session in that in those conditions in the dark. How are you feeling?
Ready. I like a lot to drive in the night, so I can't wait.
Okay, what was the track like? Was it quite hard to see visibility-wise, or was it okay?
It was good, very good, yeah. And now we have new lights, and we see quite well. Yeah.
Okay, so it's good to have good lights. That's a good thing. How are you feeling about the track? We've seen a lot of red flags today. It's a tricky circuit.
Yeah, but not really more than the others, but there are a lot of red flags. Yeah, it's a bit sad because it's difficult for the qualifying. I was in just before the last corner when the red flag comes, so I didn't finish the lap, but it's like this. And yeah, I think we are ready.
Frustrating, I know, to have all those red flags. You must be ready to go racing. We don't often have as well qualifying on the same day as the race. How prepared are you?
Good, we have quite a few hours before the race, so we have time to debrief from the qualifying and to be ready for the race.
Great, well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure we'll speak to you during the race. As we were saying, the race is getting underway. I'm going to move my camera person just a little bit forward here because he's about to get run over by a car behind. Let's not do that today. Racing will get underway at 20 to 6 this evening. We are going to be racing into twilight and into the dark. Do make sure you join us. We're really excited to bring you it, and we can't wait to go racing in Magny-Cours.
Être un bon traiteur, c'est être intransigeant sur la qualité. On ne fait du bon qu'avec le meilleur. C'est être impitoyable sur les recettes. Quand c'est bon, il n'y a rien à ajouter, rien à enlever. C'est être irréprochable sur le goût. Il faut prendre du plaisir pour en donner. Voilà, pour être un bon traiteur, il faut être intraitable.
Parfaitement intraitable.